Min wiped the grease from his hands as he floated in the zero gravity of Earth's orbital shipyard. He had been fixing the same damaged engine for 3 hours. The work was repetitive, but he liked it. There was something peaceful about understanding how machines worked. Everything had a pattern, a logic. Fix this wire, tighten that bolt, and the engine would run again. The alarm shattered his peace. Red lights flashed across the shipyard. Every worker stopped and turned toward the main viewing screen. Min grabbed a handhold and pulled himself closer to see. A massive alien ship hung in space above Earth. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The hull was made of something that looked like purple crystal, and it seemed to pulse with its own light. Min had seen pictures of alien vessels before, but never one this close to Earth. The communication came through on every screen and speaker across the planet. A being appeared that looked nothing like a human. It stood over 3 meters tall, made entirely of translucent crystal that shifted colors as it moved. Its voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with thunder. "Humans of Earth," it said, "I am Ambassador OK of the Galactic Coalition. For 10,000 of your years we have watched your species. You are not ready to join the greater galaxy. You are still not ready, but we are desperate, and desperation makes us do unwise things." Min felt his stomach tighten. The ambassador's words were not kind. "A threat consumes our galaxy. The swarm devours entire worlds. They are a parasite, a hive mind that cannot be reasoned with. We have fought them for 300 years. We are losing. Millions of coalition soldiers have died. We need more bodies to hold the line. We need your bodies." The screen showed images of They looked like insects crossed with nightmares, with too many limbs and mouths that opened in wrong directions. Min watched entire planets covered in writhing masses of these creatures. "We offer a trade," OK continued. "Send us 10,000 volunteers, fight for the coalition. In return, we will give you basic technology, medicine that will cure your diseases, energy systems that will end your resource wars. If you refuse, the swarm will eventually reach Earth. When that happens, no one will help you." The transmission ended. The crystal ship remained in orbit, waiting. Min returned to his small apartment that night and could not sleep. He kept thinking about his sister. She had moved to a colony world called New 5 years ago with her husband and 2 children. She sent him messages every week, talking about how beautiful the planet was, how her children loved the purple grass and the 3 moons. He pulled up the star maps on his data pad. New was in the outer colonies. If the swarm was spreading through the galaxy, the outer colonies would be hit first. The decision was easy. 3 days later, Min stood in a line of thousands at the Seoul Recruitment Center. The building had been transformed into a processing facility for volunteers. Most of the people in line were young, fit, and looked excited. They talked about adventure and seeing the galaxy. Min said nothing. He was there for. A soldier walked down the line looking at each person. When he reached Min, he frowned. "You're small," the soldier said. "The aliens are big. Most of them could break you in half." "I know," Min replied quietly. "Why are you here?" "My sister lives on New." The soldier's expression softened slightly. He nodded and moved on. The processing took hours. Medical examinations, psychological tests, forms to sign. Min passed everything. At the end, they gave him a number, Recruit 4891. They told him to report to Transport Bay 7 in 2 hours. In the transport bay, Min met the other humans who would travel with him. There were 40 people in his group. A woman with short black hair and scars on her arms stood near the front. She carried herself like a soldier. Her name tag read "Na." Next to her was a thin man with glasses who kept muttering calculations under his breath. His tag said "Lee." A larger man with an easy smile was making jokes to calm the nervous recruits. Was written on his chest. The transport ship arrived. It was alien technology, sleek and strange. As they boarded, a mechanical voice announced their destination, Coalition Station Omega-7, training facility for expendable units. Expendable, the word hung in the air like a bad smell. The journey took 2 weeks. The alien ship moved faster than anything humans had built. When they arrived at Omega-7, Min pressed his face to the window and stared. The station was enormous, a city floating in space. Ships of a dozen different designs came and went like insects around a hive. Their group was marched through corridors that felt too large. The ceilings were 5 meters high. Everything was built for beings bigger than humans. Finally, they reached a massive assembly hall. Hundreds of aliens filled the space. Min saw the crystalline towering and bright. He saw the Vex, 4-armed warriors covered in armor like scales. There were beings made of liquid metal, creatures with too many eyes, things he had no names for. A Vex stepped forward. Its 4 arms ended in claws and its voice was a grinding rasp. "I am Drill Instructor. You are now part of Omega Company. Omega Company is where we put the weak, the useless, and the desperate. You will receive 3rd-tier equipment because you are not worth better. You will take the positions that matter least because you cannot be trusted with more. Most of you will die in your first battle. This is acceptable. Your deaths will buy time for real soldiers to achieve victory." Someone in the human group gasped. Eyes, all 6 of them, focused on the sound. "Did I say something surprising? You are meat. Meat that volunteered to be thrown at the enemy. At least die with purpose." Other aliens in the hall laughed. It was not a kind sound. Min felt tense beside him. Her hands were clenched into fists, had gone pale, had stopped smiling. But Min simply watched. He noticed how the instructor moved, how it gestured, the rhythm of its speech. Everything had a pattern, even cruelty. "You have 1 week to learn our weapons, our tactics, and your place," continued. "Then you will face your first combat simulation. I predict none of you will survive it. Prove me wrong if you can." The humans were dismissed to their barracks. The room was too cold and the beds too hard. No one spoke much that first night. Min lay awake, thinking about the contempt in his voice. They thought humans were worthless. They thought humans were already dead. Min would remember that. The training weapons were too heavy. They were designed for Vex warriors with 4 arms, not humans with 2. Min struggled to lift the plasma rifle. When he finally raised it to his shoulder, the weight made his arms shake. "Pathetic," said walking past. "A child could hold that weapon steady." "A Vex child, maybe," Min muttered under his breath. The instructor heard him. All 6 eyes locked onto Min. "You have something to say, meat. The weapon is designed for your species. We have different physiology. May we modify the equipment to fit us?" Laughed. It was a harsh, scraping sound. "You want to change Coalition standard equipment that has been perfected over 40,000 years, because your weak arms cannot handle it." The instructor leaned down, bringing its face close to Min's. "You will adapt to our tools or you will die unable to use them. I care not which." That night Min sat in the barracks with his issued rifle. While the others slept, he carefully took it apart. He studied each component, understanding how they fit together. The power cell was too large. The barrel assembly could be shortened. The stock needed complete redesign. He could not change the weapon officially, but he could adjust it quietly. Using tools he borrowed from the station's maintenance bay, Min spent 3 nights rebuilding his rifle. He made it lighter, balanced for human proportions. When he tested it the next morning, it felt right in his hands. None noticed immediately. "Your weapon looks different." "I made some adjustments." "Can you do mine?" Word spread quickly among the humans. Min spent his free hours modifying weapons for the entire company. Either did not notice or did not care. The humans became slightly more effective in training exercises. Slightly was not enough. The first combat simulation was a disaster. They were placed in a virtual battlefield against simulated forces. The aliens had taught them standard coalition tactics: maintain formation, hold defensive positions, execute coordinated fire patterns. They swarmed over them in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Every human was marked as dead by the simulation. Min watched from the spectator area after his own virtual death. He saw the patterns. They adapted to the defensive formations. They found gaps and exploited them with terrifying speed. Showed the results to the assembled aliens. 3 minutes 40 seconds, exactly as I predicted. The humans are worthless. Other instructors laughed. Min heard them placing bets. How long would humans last in actual combat? 2 minutes. 5. One officer wagered they would run away before firing a shot. Null was furious. We could do better if they actually taught us properly. They do not want us to do better, said quietly. The scientist had been reviewing the simulation data. They want us to die quickly so real soldiers can move into position. We are a distraction, nothing more. Clenched his fists, so we just accept it. No, Min was staring at the simulation replay. We learned differently. They showed us their way. We watched it fail. Now we study why it failed and find our own way. For the next week, Min spent every spare moment reviewing battle footage. He watched how they moved, how they communicated, how they attacked. He filled notebook after notebook with observations. The coalition fought with rigid formations and predictable patterns. They fought with chaos and adaptation. What if humans fought differently too? The second simulation came. Before it started, Min approached Na. When the attack, do not hold the defensive line. What? Break formation. Move unpredictably. Make them chase scattered targets instead of one formation. Na stared at him. That goes against everything they taught us. Everything they taught us got us killed in 3 minutes. She thought for 5 seconds, then nodded. I trust you. The simulation began. The humans formed the standard defensive line as expected. They charged. At the last second, Na shouted the order to scatter. Chaos erupted. Humans ran in different directions. Some took cover behind debris. Others climbed to high positions. A few even charged forward at unexpected angles. The program to counter coalition tactics hesitated for precious seconds. Those seconds mattered. The humans lasted 7 minutes before being overwhelmed. It was still a loss, but more than double their previous time. Was not pleased. You broke formation. You abandoned defensive positions. You ignored every tactical instruction. We survived longer, Min said. You survived longer while fighting incorrectly. This proves nothing except that you cannot follow orders. It proves we can think, Na said. Maybe that is what you fear. The insult was clear. A Vex warrior named stepped forward. He was larger than with scars across his scales. The female human insults us. She implies we cannot think. I demand the right to discipline her. Said, she is worthless, but she is under my command. The instructor paused, then smiled with too many teeth. However, the small one who modified weapons and tactics without permission, he may be disciplined. Turned to Min. You, the quiet one, you believe you are clever, face me in the training circle. I will show you what happens to clever meat. Min looked at the Vex warrior, stood over 2 meters tall with 4 powerful arms. Min was barely 170 centimeters and weighed perhaps 70 kilograms. The outcome was obvious. I accept, Min said. Na grabbed his arm. Are you insane? He will kill you. Probably not. It is just training. I will learn something. What could you possibly learn from being beaten? How he fights. The training circle was a raised platform with a hard floor. No weapons, only hand-to-hand combat. Aliens gathered to watch. Min heard them laughing, making jokes about how quickly the human would fall. Entered the circle with confidence. He cracked his 4 knuckles and gestured for Min to attack. Min did not attack. He circled watching. Coward growled, fight. The Vex charged. Min dodged barely. A four-armed punch grazed his shoulder and sent him spinning. He rolled, came up on his feet, was already there. A kick caught Min in the ribs. He heard something crack. The pain was bright and sharp. Min gasped but did not fall. He backed away, still watching. His fighting style was powerful but predictable. The warrior relied on strength and reach. Every attack followed traditional forms. Another charge. This time Min dropped low and swept legs. The warrior stumbled but did not fall. Two hands grabbed Min and threw him across the circle. He hit the wall hard. "Stay down," Human said. "You have lost." Min struggled to his feet. His ribs screamed. Blood ran from his nose, but he had seen enough. "Again," Min said. The fight lasted 2 more minutes. Won easily. Min was carried to the medical bay with broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and multiple bruises. Visited him that night. That was stupid. "Maybe," Min said through the pain medication. "But I know how fights now." "What good does that do?" "He will want to fight me again. They all will. They think I am weak. They think beating me proves something. Next time I will be ready." 1 week later, after the medical machines healed his bones, challenged Min again. The warrior expected another easy victory. The gathered aliens expected entertainment. They did not expect Min to last 30 seconds. They definitely did not expect him to last 3 minutes. Min had spent the week studying everything about Vex combat. He knew the traditional forms. He knew the patterns. When attacked with the same powerful charge, Min was not where the warrior expected. He moved at wrong angles, struck at joints instead of armor, used his own momentum against him. The fight ended when finally pinned Min to the ground. Technically a victory for the Vex, but was breathing hard. He had actually had to work for it. The watching aliens were silent. "You fought better," admitted. "You are stronger," Min replied, "but I learned quickly." Released him and stood. For a moment something like respect crossed the warrior's face. Then it was gone. "You are still just meat. Clever meat, perhaps, but meat nonetheless." As Min limped away, he heard the aliens talking. They were no longer laughing. Some sounded worried. One called him the adaptive one. Min smiled despite the pain. They were starting to notice. That was the first step. The transport ship smelled like fear and recycled air. Min sat with the other members of Omega Company, human and alien together. They were heading to Helios 9, a border world where they had been detected. This was real combat. No simulations, no do-overs. He had been promoted to corporal 2 days earlier, not because of skill, but because 3 human officers had died in previous skirmishes on other worlds. Someone needed to fill the rank. Min accepted without comment. Na sat beside him, cleaning her modified rifle for the 5th time. "I heard the commander talking. We are the screening force." "What does that mean?" "It means we die first while the main army gets into position." She looked at him. "They expect us to last maybe 30 minutes. Hold the line just long enough for the real soldiers to set up proper defenses." Laughed nervously from across the compartment. 30 minutes? That is longer than our first simulation. We are moving up in the world." Was not smiling. The scientist had been studying data about them for weeks. They adapt quickly. Every tactic the coalition uses, they learn to counter within hours. The standard defensive formations do not work anymore. Nothing works for long. "Then we do not use standard tactics," Min said quietly. The ship landed on Helios 9 in the middle of what used to be a city. The buildings were empty shells. Whoever lived here had evacuated or died. Omega Company spread out across the defensive line. 200 soldiers, mostly human with a few alien units that had also been deemed expendable. Commander X, an officer made of blue crystal, gave the orders from orbit. "Hold position Delta 9. Maintain formation. Engage targets at maximum range. Die with honor." Easy for him to say from up there, Na muttered. They came at dawn. Min saw them first. The horizon seemed to move like the ground itself was alive. Then he realized it was millions of creatures, each the size of a large dog, running on 6 legs. They made a sound like screaming mixed with clicking. The noise drilled into his head. "Hold formation," an alien lieutenant shouted. "Prepare to fire." The coalition forces formed the standard defensive line. Soldiers shoulder to shoulder, weapons raised. They hit them like a wave hitting a wall. The wall broke in 4 minutes. The creatures were too fast, too many. They climbed over each other to get at the defenders. The standard formation created a concentrated target. They overwhelmed it through sheer numbers. Min watched half his company die in the first minute. The aliens fought bravely but by the book. Every tactic was standard. Every response was predictable. The devoured predictability. "Fall back," the lieutenant ordered. "Retreat to secondary positions." But there were no secondary positions. The retreat became a rout. Coalition forces ran, and they chased them down. The main army was still 10 minutes from being ready. Omega Company was cut off, surrounded, abandoned. Na grabbed Min's arm. "We are dead, they left us." Min looked around. 40 humans remained from the original 80. A dozen other aliens were scattered among the ruins. They were closing in from all sides. Na shook him. "Think of something crazy now." He looked at the battlefield. Broken buildings, abandoned vehicles, dead bodies. They moved in patterns coordinated by some kind of hive intelligence. They adapted to resistance. They found the path of least resistance and exploited it. What if there was no path? What if everything was resistance? "Everyone stop running," Min shouted. "Scatter into the buildings, small groups, 2 or 3 people. Move constantly. Do not hold any position longer than 1 minute." "That is insane," an alien soldier yelled. "The formation is dead. Everyone in the formation is dead. Try something different or die here." Min grabbed Na. "You are with me. Find a building with a vehicle bay." They scattered. The expecting a mass defense found dozens of small targets instead. The hive mind tried to coordinate an attack on all of them at once. It could not. There were too many variables. Min and Na ran through a collapsed building, followed. They fired, killed 3, then ran again. Never stayed in one place, always moving. "The vehicles," Min shouted into his communicator. "Can you overload the power cores?" "Yes, but why would stopped?" "Oh yes, give me 2 minutes." Min checked his mental map of the area. 6 abandoned coalition vehicles were scattered across the battlefield. If could turn them into bombs. "Can you remote pilot a transport ship?" With my eyes closed, the pilot's voice came back. "What do you need?" "There," Min pointed at a cluster of concentrated near what looked like a command organism. It was larger, different. "Can you crash a ship into that?" "Crash? You want me to crash a perfectly good ship?" "It is not perfectly good. It is damaged and stuck in a crater, but the engines still work, yes." Laughed. "You are crazy, I love it. Give me 3 minutes." The next 6 hours were chaos. Min coordinated the scattered groups through constant communication. They set traps using building collapses. They used the overloaded vehicles as explosives, detonating them when massed together. They never fought head-on. Always hit and run. Always unpredictable. When crashed the transport ship into the command cluster, the explosion vaporized 200 creatures. The hive coordination failed for precious minutes. Those minutes were enough. The humans attacked during the confusion, not with formation but with fury. They were tired, injured, low on ammunition, but they were still alive and the aliens had said they would be dead. Spite was a powerful motivator. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, they expected to find corpses. Instead, they found Omega Company standing among dead. Min was leaning against a wall, bleeding from a dozen cuts, his rifle empty. Na was beside him, equally battered. had lost his glasses and was squinting at everything, had a broken arm but was still smiling. 40 humans had held against thousands of for 6 hours. Commander X descended in a command shuttle. The blue crystal alien looked at the battlefield, at the modified tactics, at the improvised explosions. His crystalline face was unreadable. "Report," he demanded. Min straightened slowly. Omega Company held position Delta 9 for 6 hours. Casualties, 40%. Enemy casualties, estimated 8,000, sir. You broke formation. You ignored tactical doctrine. You used equipment in unauthorized ways. Yes, sir. You should all be dead. Yes, sir. X was quiet for a long moment, then almost too quietly to hear. How did you know it would work? I did not, sir, but the standard way was definitely going to fail, so we tried something else. The commander walked through the battlefield, examining everything. He saw the pattern of hit-and-run attacks. He saw the improvised explosives. He saw human footprints everywhere, never staying in one place. This is not how we fight, X said. No, sir, Min agreed. This is how we survive. That night, Min received a message on his personal device. It was from her colony had been attacked by scouts. The coalition fleet had arrived just in time. She and her family were evacuating to the core worlds. She was alive, safe. Min sat in the ruins of Helios 9 and allowed himself to cry, just for a minute. Then he cleaned his rifle and prepared for the next battle. In orbit, Commander X filed his report. He described the battle honestly, but noted that the human tactics were lucky and unrepeatable. He recommended that Omega Company continue to serve as a screening force. But he also attached the full combat footage. Ambassador OK watched that footage 47 times. The crystal being saw something the commander had missed. The humans had not been lucky. They had been smart. More importantly, they had been willing to change. The coalition had fought the same way for 40,000 years. They had adapted to that way. But the humans had no doctrine, no 40,000 years of tradition. They simply did what worked. OK made a note in his private files. Monitor Corporal Min. He may be valuable. Far away on other battlefields, the coalition continued to lose. They adapted to every tactic, every weapon, every strategy. The war was being lost one world at a time. But on Helios 9, a small group of humans had done the impossible. They had won when they should have died. They had adapted faster than the. It was a small victory, one battle, meaningless in the grand scope of the war. But it was also a seed, and seeds, given time, can grow into something unexpected. 6 months after Helios 9, Min wore the insignia of a lieutenant. The rank felt strange on his uniform. He had gone from mechanic to corporal to lieutenant in less than a year. Each promotion came because someone above him had died. This time was different. This time they gave him command of an entire mixed unit, 50 humans and 50 aliens from various species. The official designation was Tactical Response Unit 12. Everyone called it the Humans Company. The aliens did not want to be there. On the first day, a Vex warrior named and approached Min. I do not take orders from meat. I request transfer. Min looked up at the warrior and had 3 red combat marks on his armor, a veteran. Request noted. We deploy in 6 hours. You cannot deny my transfer. I just did. You can file a complaint with command after the battle if you survive. Min returned to checking equipment. For now, you are under my command. Follow orders or stay out of the way. And Scales rippled with anger, but he said nothing more. The other aliens watched the exchange carefully. They were testing the small human who thought he could lead them. Their first deployment was to a mining colony under attack. Standard coalition forces had already failed to hold the planet. Tactical Response Unit 12 was sent to evacuate civilians while the main fleet. The commanding general's orders were simple: buy us 2 hours, use standard defensive protocol, die with honor if necessary. Min read the orders and deleted them. Listen carefully, he told his unit. We have one job: protect the civilians until the evacuation is complete. I do not care about honor. I do not care about protocol. I care about results. We will use whatever tactics work. If you cannot accept that, leave now. No one left, even stayed, though he glared. They attacked the evacuation point with their usual swarming tactics. Min did not form a defensive line. Instead, he split his unit into mobile strike teams. Each team had a mix of humans and aliens. They moved constantly, hitting them from unexpected angles. When they adapted to mobile targets, Min switched tactics. He set traps using the colony's mining equipment, explosives disguised as debris, collapsed tunnels that channeled the creatures into kill zones. They adapted again. Min switched tactics again. For 4 hours, Tactical Response Unit 12 held the evacuation point. Every civilian got out safely. When Min's unit finally, they had lost only 6 soldiers. The commanding general had expected 60% casualties and approached Min on the transport ship. The Vex warrior's expression was different now. You do not fight like coalition soldiers. No, Min agreed. I fight like a human. I have fought in 20 battles using standard tactics. I have seen good warriors die following protocol. And paused. Today I saw strange tactics that worked. I request to remain in your unit. Request granted. Word spread through coalition forces. The human lieutenant who won battles using wrong tactics. The small one who broke every rule and somehow survived. Officers were divided. Some wanted him court-martialed for doctrinal violations. Others wanted to study his methods. Ambassador OK fell into the second category. The crystal being reviewed every battle report involving Min's unit. 47 engagements in 6 months. 47 victories. Average casualties. 17% compared to coalition average of 62%. The numbers were impossible to ignore. OK arranged a meeting on Station Omega 7. Min was summoned to the ambassador's quarters. He expected punishment for breaking protocols. Instead, OK asked questions. How do you decide which tactics to use? I watch the enemy, Min replied. I see what they do, then I do something they do not expect. They adapt quickly. How do you counter their adaptation? I adapt faster. That is not an answer, that is a statement. It is both. Min thought carefully about how to explain. The coalition fights with patterns, 40,000 years of perfect tactics. They learned those patterns and found the weaknesses, but humans have no patterns. We have no 40,000 years of tradition. We just do what works in the moment. OK's crystal form shifted through several colors. You are saying the coalition's greatest strength is our weakness. Against an adaptive enemy, yes. The ambassador was quiet for a long time. Finally, I am assigning a scholar to your unit. His name is he will observe your methods. Why? Because you are winning when everyone else is losing. I need to understand why. Join the unit the next week. There was a floating being made of golden light, communicating through telepathy. He made the human soldiers uncomfortable, but Min welcomed him. Watch everything, Min told the scholar. Ask any questions, I hide nothing. Over the next 3 months, observed 18 battles. He saw Min change tactics mid-fight based on enemy response. He saw the lieutenant use weapons in ways they were not designed for. He saw humans teaching aliens to think differently. Most importantly, he saw something the coalition had forgotten: flexibility. Your species has no single fighting philosophy, observed after one particularly chaotic victory. Correct, Min said. The coalition sees this as weakness. No unified doctrine, no traditional forms. Also correct. But against an enemy that adapts to unified doctrine, this is strength. The golden light pulsed with excitement. You do not need to change your entire military philosophy because you have no single philosophy. Each human thinks differently, fights differently. They cannot adapt to chaos because chaos has no pattern. Now you understand. This report shook the Coalition War Council. Half the generals called it heresy. The other half called it genius. They argued for weeks. Meanwhile, the war continued to go badly. Forces pushed deeper into coalition space. Standard tactics failed on every front, except where Min's unit fought. More requests came. Other commanders asked for human tactical advisors. Min sent Na to help a struggling fleet. She taught them hit-and-run tactics. The fleet stopped losing. Was assigned to a weapons development team. Within a month, he had combined human creativity with coalition technology. The new weapons were crude by coalition standards but highly effective. Trained pilots in unpredictable flight patterns. Stop flying like you are in a parade, he told them. Fly like you are angry. Even the Vex warrior who had beaten Min in the training circle requested transfer to the unit. I thought you were weak, the warrior admitted. I was wrong. You are dangerous in ways I did not understand. Teach me. But not everyone was convinced. General, the instructor who had called humans meat, filed formal complaints. This human violates every principle of proper warfare. His methods are chaos. If we accept his tactics, we destroy 40,000 years of military tradition. Your 40,000 years of tradition is losing the war, Ambassador OK replied coldly. His chaos is winning battles. The argument reached crisis point when Min's unit was assigned to defend an important coalition world called a prime. The planet was home to 5 billion Vex civilians. If it fell, the entire Vex species might collapse. General himself commanded the defense. He refused to allow Min to use unorthodox tactics. On my world, we fight with honor, standard formations, proper protocol. The battle was a disaster. Forces were slaughtered using the same old tactics. In desperation, the general finally allowed Min to take command. Min had 4 hours to save 5 billion lives. He did not use formations. He did not use protocol. He split the remaining forces into 300 independent teams and told them all the same thing. Survive, adapt, win. I do not care how. The battle lasted 16 hours. Min's forces fought like demons, never staying in one place, never doing the same thing twice. They turned the cities into death traps for them. They used civilian infrastructure as weapons. They broke every rule. A prime was saved. General stood in the ruins of his command center and looked at the small human who had done the impossible. For the first time, the proud Vex warrior had no words. Min saluted. Your world is safe, sir. You saved my entire species, said quietly, using tactics I called disgraceful. Sometimes disgraceful tactics are the ones that work. The general's scales shifted to a color Min had never seen before. It was the Vex expression of deep shame. I was wrong about your kind, about you. I apologize. After a prime, the coalition could no longer ignore what was happening. The human who thought differently was winning while everyone else was losing. Ambassador OK made his recommendation to the War Council. Promote Lieutenant Min to High Commander. Give him an army. Let him fight his way. Half the council agreed immediately. The other half hesitated. And while they debated, they prepared their final assault on the coalition's last strongholds. The war was reaching its endgame. The War Council chamber was built for giants. Min stood in the center, surrounded by holographic projections of coalition generals and ambassadors. Each one was larger than him, more impressive, more powerful. They argued about him like he was not there. The human has won battles, yes, a general admitted, but giving him command of our main assault force, that is madness. What choice do we have? OK's voice cut through the debate. They have adapted to everything else. We have lost 60% of coalition space in the last year. Standard tactics are failing everywhere except where this human fights. He breaks every rule. Perhaps our rules are the problem. The debate continued for hours. Men waited patiently. Finally, the Supreme Commander spoke. She was a named Eliza, ancient and wise. Her golden light filled the chamber. We face extinction, she said simply. The home world has been located. We have one chance to strike at their heart, one assault. If we fail, there will be no second chance. Her light focused on men human. If we give you command of the vanguard, what will you do? I will win, Min said. That is not a plan. Plans are worthless against they adapt to plans. I will go with 50,000 soldiers. We will adapt faster than they can. We will break their home world or die trying. 80% casualty projection, a general said, maybe more. Better than 100%, Min replied, which is what happens if we do nothing. Eliza made her decision. Omega Legion is formed, 50,000 volunteers, 30,000 human, 20,000 aliens who have trained in the humans' methods. Min Park, you are hereby appointed High Commander of Omega Legion. You will lead the assault on the home world. May fortune favor you because nothing else will. This was the Coalition's final error. They were so desperate, so defeated, that they gave a human exactly what he needed to win. An army with no attachment to tradition. Soldiers who had learned to adapt. Freedom to fight however worked. They thought they were sending him to die heroically. Instead, they were giving him the keys to victory. Omega Legion assembled at the staging point. Min looked at his command. 30,000 humans who believed in him. 20,000 aliens who had learned to fight differently. Na commanded the 1st Division, led the Technical Warfare Division, coordinated the fighter squadrons, commanded the Vex shock troops, and led the mobile strike teams. Even was there, volunteering to document what he called the most important battle in galactic history. Listen to me, Min addressed the entire Legion. The Coalition expects us to die. They have projected 80% casualties. That means they expect only 10,000 of us to survive. I reject those numbers. We will not die in useless sacrifice. We will win and we will come home. How? Someone shouted. By doing what we do best. We adapt, we improvise. We do not fight like an army. We fight like 50,000 individuals who happen to be working toward the same goal. Min smiled. They have never faced anything like that. The journey to the home world took 3 weeks. During that time, Min did something no coalition commander had ever done. He divided his legion into 200 independent strike teams. Each team had its own commander, its own tactics, its own freedom to adapt. You will receive objectives, not orders, he told the team commanders. I do not care how you achieve your objectives. Surprise me. Surprise the enemy. Stay alive. Coalition observers were horrified. This is not an army. This is chaos. Yes, Min agreed, and chaos is what wins. The home world was called Nest Prime. It was a planet covered in organic structures, billions of coordinated by a central hive queen. The Coalition had never successfully assaulted a hive world before. The coordination was too perfect, the adaptation too fast. But the Coalition had never sent someone like Min before. Omega Legion dropped from orbit in 200 different locations. The hive mind tried to coordinate a response to all of them simultaneously. It could not. There were too many threats, too many different tactics. Some teams went loud with massive explosives. Others went silent with stealth approaches. Some fought head-on. Others used biological weapons that had developed. No two teams fought the same way. They adapted to one team's tactics, just in time for a different team to hit them with something completely different. Min coordinated from a mobile command center that never stayed in one place. He watched the battle unfold across 200 fronts. When a team got in trouble, he sent reinforcements. When a team found a weakness, he exploited it. Nu's division fought through the outer defenses using pure aggression. We do not stop. We do not slow down. We move forward until there is nothing left to fight. Technical teams sabotaged the organic infrastructure of the hive world. They introduced viruses that confused communication. They poisoned the biological networks that connected the hive mind. Pilots flew patterns that made no sense. They attacked from impossible angles, retreated when they should press forward, pressed forward when they should retreat. The air defenses could not predict them. For 36 hours, Omega Legion tore through Nest Prime like a storm of chaos. They adapted and adapted and adapted, but they could not adapt fast enough. Finally, Nu's division reached the hive core. The Queen was there, massive and ancient, the intelligence that coordinated billions of. Destroying her would break the entire swarm. But she was defended by millions of warrior. Standard tactics said this was impossible to breach. Min had stopped using standard tactics months ago. All teams converge on the hive core. Every soldier, every weapon, every trick we have left. We end this now. 200 strike teams became one massive assault. They hit the hive core from every direction at once. Zvek's warriors fought beside human soldiers, and mobile teams danced through the defenses, used his telepathy to confuse the hive coordination. The battle was brutal. Thousands died in the first 10 minutes, but they kept coming, kept fighting, kept adapting. Min himself led the final assault on the Queen. He ran through tunnels of living flesh, his rifle in his hands. He was just a mechanic from Earth, just a small human who thought differently, but he had come too far to stop now. The Hive Queen was massive, intelligent, and utterly alien. She spoke directly into Min's mind. You cannot win. We have consumed 1,000 species. We have adapted to every threat. You are just one small creature. Yes, Min agreed. He raised his rifle. But I am a creature who never stops adapting. He fired. The Coalition plasma rifle, modified by human hands to output 3 times standard power, burned through the Queen's defenses. She screamed, a sound that echoed across the entire planet. Na arrived with the rest of the assault team. Together, they poured everything they had into the Hive Queen. Plasma, explosives, biological weapons, even old-fashioned bullets. The Queen fell. Across Nest Prime, billions of suddenly stopped coordinating. The hive mind collapsed. The swarm became millions of individual creatures with no direction, no purpose. They scattered, fled, died in confusion. Omega Legion stood in the ruins of the hive core, exhausted and bloody. Min checked the casualty reports. 23% losses, not 80%, 23. They had won. The Coalition fleet arrived to find Nest Prime broken and the swarm in collapse. Supreme Commander Eliza personally came down to the surface. The Ancient looked at the small human covered in ash and blood. You did it, she said softly. You actually did it. We did it, Min corrected. Omega Legion did it, humans and aliens together, fighting differently. Ambassador OK stood nearby, his crystal form shifting through colors of amazement. We underestimated you. We thought giving you an army was sending you to a heroic death. Instead, you ended a war we thought we had lost. That was your final error, Na said, limping over with a bandaged leg. You thought different meant wrong. You thought small meant weak. The Coalition offered Min everything. The rank of High Admiral, command of entire fleets, a palace on any world he chose. He refused it all. I just want to go home, Min said. I want to see my sister. I want to go back to fixing engines. You changed the galaxy, OK said. How can you just return to being a mechanic? Because that is who I am. I did not fight for glory or power. I fought because someone needed to. The fighting is done. Now I go home." Eliza granted his request, but before he left she made an announcement to the entire coalition. "For 40,000 years we believed our ways were perfect. We were wrong. The humans have shown us that adaptation is more valuable than tradition. From this day forward, coalition military doctrine will be rebuilt. We will learn to think differently. We will learn from those we once called weak." The threat did not end completely. Scattered remnants of the swarm still existed, but without the hive queen they were just animals. Dangerous, yes, but no longer an extinction threat. Earth was offered full membership in the Galactic Coalition with equal status. The technology transfer would change human civilization forever. Other species began studying human tactics, human creativity, human adaptability. Min returned to Earth's orbital shipyard 6 months after leaving. He found his old workshop exactly as he had left it. The damaged engine he had been working on was still there, still broken. He smiled and picked up his tools. Na and visited him a week later. They found him floating in zero gravity, covered in grease, humming to himself as he worked. "The savior of the galaxy," Na teased, "back to fixing engines." "Someone has to," Min replied. "This engine makes a weird sound, it bothers me." Arrived unexpectedly, squeezing his large Vex body through the workshop door. "The Coalition War College has asked me to teach a class on adaptive warfare. I told them I could not teach what I do not fully understand. They suggested I ask you." Min thought about it while tightening a bolt. "I will help, but not full-time. I have engines to fix." "Agreed." They stood together in the workshop. A human mechanic, a Vex warrior, a Special Forces soldier, a scientist, and a pilot. They had saved the galaxy by refusing to fight the way everyone expected. Through the workshop window, Earth turned slowly in the void. It was just a small planet in a vast galaxy. Its people were just one species among thousands. But they had proven something important. Size did not matter. Power did not matter. What mattered was the willingness to adapt, to think differently, to never give up. The Coalition had underestimated them, had called them weak, primitive, expendable, had given them the worst equipment and expected them to die quickly. That had been their final error, because humanity did not die easily, and when pushed to the edge, humans did not break. They adapted. Min returned to his engine, already thinking about the next problem to solve. The war was over. The galaxy was saved. Life continued. And sometimes, just sometimes, the quiet ones who thought differently changed everything.